I'm ready, Kaylee, if you are.
Hey, Coach. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I got you.
All right, great. We'll get started then.
Hi, Coach. Good afternoon. Just wondering if you had an update on Ryan Bates, because I know that was a late injury in the game, and he didn't go in, and we didn't get an official designation on him.
Yeah, he's got a knee, and he'll be day to day. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, Jackson here. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not bad, thanks. When you got guys that traditionally have breakout games the way Isaiah did against New England, and Devin has these last few weeks, I'm wondering, do you at all think about, or do you change your game plan leading up to the next game when guys like that get hot? Maybe you think about getting them more involved, or is that not really something you think about?
I think we factor a lot of things into the game plan. That's certainly one of them. It's just a matter of how much we factored in. So yeah, I mean, I think we're always trying to be on the pulse that way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, Sean. Adam Benini. Just wanted to follow up in terms of the run game, where it's at right now. We talked a little bit after the game yesterday about the balance. One game out of the regular season, how satisfied are you with where things are at in terms of the balance you have been able to achieve offensively at this point?
Yeah, I think it's on a game-by-game basis, really. I liked how we were able to pivot a little bit yesterday and run the ball. I thought our offensive line played extremely well, as did the backs that carried the ball, and then Josh factored into that as well with some of the runs that he made, as you saw, Adam. And so I think that's going to, that has improved, and it's good to have some continuity there a little bit, although it seems like it's every couple of weeks we change a little bit. So I was pleased with what I saw in that department yesterday.
It changes kind of the norm across the National Football League, I guess, for a lot of reasons at this time of the year. But under pressure down the stretch, particularly after the Monday night loss to New England and what happened in Tampa Bay, your team has been under some pressure to deliver. And understanding you have one game to go and a division title is still at stake, but how satisfied are you with how they've been able to deliver over these last three?
Yeah, I've been happy with what I've seen. The execution level at times yesterday was very high. At other times, quite honestly, it wasn't where it needed to be, and that's what it really boils down to. And I think the preparation I've seen over the last couple of weeks and the leadership, as I mentioned last week, has been big for us.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, Josh Reed here. Hope you're having a good day.
Same, Josh.
The Ed Oliver and Harrison Phillips, that tandem looks like they're playing pretty well next to each other. How much goes into that as far as just that chemistry of playing defensive tackle next to each other like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that, I think, at any position, defensive line in particular, because there's so much of line calls or playing off of one another and feel there as you play next to each other. So I would echo what you said about those two playing well and playing well together.
Yeah, and after the game, you pointed out in particular that 3-play series there by Ed Oliver, which was huge, and kind of swinging things back, the momentum in your favor. All in all, though, the entire game, when you went back and watched Ed and the way he played, what did you see?
I saw a real solid game. I thought he was quick off the ball and disruptive at times. A couple of things, fundamentally, technique-wise, just like our entire defense, we can be better there. He'll continue to work on that part of his game, and but overall, I thought he wreaked havoc in that series in particular, but also throughout the game at different times.
Thanks again, Sean. Have a good day.
Yep, you too. Thanks.
I was just wondering, how close was Emmanuel to being able to play yesterday, and what are you expecting out of him this week?
Yeah, I'll just focus on this week. We'll see where he is. Right now, he's day to day. We'll see how he trends through the week here, Captain.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Hey, Sean, you talked about how your preparation and leadership has changed and you're very proud of it over the last few weeks. I guess, could I just go, what has changed? I mean, I know you're not going to tell me everything that goes on in the locker room or leaders that have stepped up, but preparation wise, I know hindsight's 2020, but have you noticed a tangible thing that was like, that wasn't good, now this is better and the results are showing from it?
Yeah, and I should clarify. I don't necessarily think that it wasn't that our guys weren't preparing before, right? It's what they're doing now is they've taken it to another level. And the urgency that has come with that, and again, the leadership drives that, right? So I think there's been leadership, on the field at practice. Not that there again wasn't before, but again at another level, and so that's been good to have, and the impact that that's made on our team has been evident.
I know last year we talked a lot about wanting to play your best football at the end of the season. Is this kind of what you're talking about, where the urgency, stepping up at practice, that just goes with January football?
Well, sometimes it does. I think that's the way you want it. It doesn't always go like that, but the teams that I've been around that have been the good ones that play their best this time of year, it's certainly necessary to have that. Again, I've been happy with that. I think we've got more room to go there as well, and I just think we got to continue to embrace the growth mindset and stay humble yet confident in our approach every week.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Sean. Stay safe.
Yeah. All right. You too.
Hey, Sean, we were talking to Greg after the game, Greg Rousseau, and he was talking a little bit about, the challenges of your first year in the NFL. How have you seen him, kind of navigate the water, especially after sitting out last season, avoiding maybe a rookie wall, or did he experience any of that? And then his performance, of course, on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good young player, and I think there is a rookie wall for most rookies, especially ones that play right from the start, like Greg has. It's like I don't think many of them believe that hey, it won't affect me early in the year, but eventually they go through it, and sometimes then you can work yourself through that wall and then back out on the other end while still in the same season. So I think he's experiencing some of that now, and you saw some of that yesterday's game.
And then, 2 straight performances, he earned Pro Bowl honors, and Dawkins has been playing at arguably an all pro level. I mean, how good has that been to see a guy that obviously you guys have talked a lot about what he means in the room, but to see a guy who's gone through what he's gone through playing like this, what's that meant to you guys?
Yeah, he's played extremely well the last 2 weeks, effort-wise, urgency, finishing plays, and that's been a big lift for our offensive line and our offense.
Thanks, Sean.
Hey, Sean, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. We saw Stephon. It seemed like he was maybe getting checked out late. I think he did come back into the game. Is he all good to go injury-wise?
Yes, he's fine.
Okay. And then did you have any updates, COVID list additions? I don't think you had anybody on it to take off, but all clear there as well?
Yes, all clear today.
Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, I wanted to ask you about Levi Wallace. I think if you guys had such a thing as an unsung hero, he might be a good nomination for it. And particularly when you lose Tre'Davious, right? And, he's going to take on maybe added responsibility. But with what he's gone through this season and how he seems to kind of continually answer the bell for you, just what can you say about, I guess perseverance, that maybe isn't the right word, but just what he's given you, week in and week out, you've really been able to rely on him, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I love how he continues to grow, continues to get better each and every year, each and every week, really. And he's a model of an example of someone who came in, not high on the radar in terms of the draft status and all this type of stuff that so many people put all that weight and stock in, but he's come in and proven himself and works every day to improve himself. So, I mean, I've just been very, very happy with what I've seen.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Sean. Have a good week.
Yeah, it's it.
Good afternoon, Head Coach Sean McDermott, George Radney, Challenger Community News.
Hi, George.
Alrighty, good to talk with you again on Monday after a win. Question I have for you: has there been any consideration with Matt Breida, Isaiah McKenzie, and Devin Singletary all being on the field at the same time? Because it seems like they would create a very explosive, even more explosive offensive running game or passing, and it allows Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, and of course Dawson Knox to free up the defense. Seems like they wouldn't be able to have enough guys to cover, or the linebackers wouldn't be able to isolate. If you isolate one of those guys on linebackers, it seems like it could open it up a little bit more.
Yeah, George. That's a good point. I mean, you sound like you've coached once or twice in your life before, huh?
Now, I grew up in the Air Coryell era. When you see a unit where you have that many explosive guys on one team, on one roster, and not seeing them all out there, Air Coryell, Coryell, he was outstanding of using he gave everybody touches. Even though it was one football, he was able to get the ball to almost all of those guys during various games.
He was amazing. I grew up watching him as well, and impressive to watch his offenses and how he spread the ball around, like you said. And yeah, I mean, we gave a lot of those combinations, as you mentioned, George, different, obviously thoughts and talk about that during the week. And so, we'll see where it takes us going forward here.
All right. One last thing, especially with the icy conditions and the weather probably not going to be that much better than yesterday, the rest of the way, you can get guys going in opposite directions. But hey, appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Hey, Sean. I was curious. I know you were asked about Marquez yesterday, but considering everything, would you think about any changes at returner this coming week, or how are you guys kind of approaching that on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, we talk about a lot of things, man, as you just heard me say. So different combinations, who's best for the role this week, that week, and whatever the position might be. So, we'll just continue to take it 1 week at a time.
And watching the game back, I noticed that you kind of went over to him after and, said something short to him. What do you say to a young player like that, especially in that situation?
Yeah, those are the hard moments for young players, right? And hard for coaches to watch young players go through it, but they all do. And what you're looking for there is just a player that can mentally reset. And I thought Speedy did a good job with that during yesterday's game.
And then on a completely unrelated note, we're getting to this now 17th regular season game, and then obviously the playoffs are next. Coming into this season, knowing it was going to be longer, kind of either way, did you guys approach it any differently? What do you do to kind of make sure guys stay healthy with the extra games, and kind of how do you combat that?
Yeah, I think you've seen us adjust our practice schedule over the last couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks now, and I think that's helped. Probably a better question for the players overall in terms of how they're feeling, but we've tried to make some adjustments to our schedule to help them.
Thanks.
Yep.
Hey, Sean, I apologize if I missed this, but just wanted to clarify, are Heath Farwell and Eric Washington still in the COVID protocols?
They're back. Yeah, they were back last week and then coached in the game yesterday as well.
Okay, so is that the same timeline as, did those protocols change for players too? Or excuse me, for coaches as well as for players?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Same. Yep, same.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
That's all we have for today. Thanks, Coach.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I got you.
All right, great. We'll get started with questions.
Hey, Brian, John Worrell.
Hey, War, how's it going?
Not bad. Yourself?
Good, thanks.
Good. Just I know you've said this numerous times over and over again, that we'll win if we can throw the ball 50 times or run the ball 50 times. Is there something to the fact that you finally ran the ball almost 50 times yesterday? And was there any validation of the fact that you could, as Sean McDermott says, pivot to that when the passing game wasn't working?
John, we just do what we think is best to win the game. I'm not being a smart guy either. That's what we thought. Obviously, we had a few turnovers there, and just try to calm things down a little bit. And the offensive line and Motor and the perimeter guys did a good job. And we were moving the ball and staying away from some situations where we put ourselves in earlier in the game, and that was just a game. I don't know, whatever it was, 40 sometimes, but we had no problem doing that when it's working.
Is it reassuring that it did work when you needed it most?
Yeah. I mean, you try to call plays that work the best you can. And again, I'll always credit the guys that are out there with their hands in the dirt, blocking the guys that they're supposed to block. And I'd say our backs, both Zach and obviously Motor ran hard. Those guys did a good job of controlling the line of scrimmage and making positive yards. So credit goes to those guys.
And just the last thing on a similar subject, I don't want to say that that there's been a change in the offense's identity, but there seems to have been more of an emphasis on running the ball since the second half of the Tampa game. Is that a fair assessment?
I guess the numbers are the numbers. Again, what we're always going to try to do is, if we think one thing gives us an advantage or the other thing gives us an advantage or a balance of it, that's the only thing we try to do each and every week. There's not a set of amount of runs that I'm looking to get called or passes or things like that. I think there's ebbs and flows of every game and adjustments that need to be made. And yesterday we just so happened to run it a good bit of time, particularly there in the second half.
Much appreciated, Brian, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, John.
Hey, Brian. Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Thank you. I was wondering, can you take us through the play call on the pass to Dawkins?
Yeah, it was just Dawkins pass, and they ended up covering it. So Josh kind of threw it where no one else could get it. We've run that maybe not the same exact way, but a similar way, a few years back. And they did a good job covering it. First down play. So go to the next down.
Dion was also very happy to tell us yesterday that it's called the Dawkins Pass. When did y'all start calling it that?
When we put it in.
Okay.
Yeah. Try to simplify verbiage, and it's really a one-man read. I mean, there's a potential to go to another guy, but really a one-man read. And if you got it, you got it, and if you don't, you throw it away.
Awesome.
So,
thanks. Oh,
I'm sure Dion liked having it called after himself.
you did for sure. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, Josh Reed here. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you, Josh.
The kind of sticking with Dion there, he also said that it said a lot that Josh trusted him in double coverage to throw him the ball.
He's made a few nice catches in practice.
But what he's more known for, blocking up front. What have you seen from him the last couple of games? Because there have been some plays on tape where he is now just taking people out.
Yeah, I'd say he's meeting expectations and standards that we have him and we have for him. And I'd say he has, more importantly, for himself. He's had to deal with obviously being sick a couple times during the year. But he's playing his best football right now, and that's what we need him to do. He's one of our better players. And he's got to do it week in and week out, particularly this time of year. He's had some good plays, some tough plays, some effort plays, some chase plays, some really
look, when you're an offensive lineman, you're usually a very selfless individual. You know, you're blocking for, you know, receivers and running backs and quarterbacks and trying to protect those guys, and don't necessarily get a bunch of accolades or photos in the paper and things like that. So, you know, I wouldn't just say Deion, I'd say that entire group the last couple of weeks, they've had some good resolve. You know, we're going to need them to continue to be better. That's where it starts, is up front.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate
You got
it,
it,
as
Josh.
always.
Yep, me too. Thanks.
Hey, Brian, how are you? It's Sal here.
Hey, Sal.
Hey, to a lot of us, it looks like, and a lot of fans, I think, that Devin's just running a little differently the last 3-4 weeks. Maybe a little more physicality to him, maybe a little bit more straight line, not as much trying to do something before he's getting hit. I don't know. Is that a perception? Is that something you have seen in him that's changing his game a little bit?
No, I think he's been a really consistent player for us, Sal. You know, running backs, look, we've thrown the ball a lot here. Say we'll continue to throw it a lot too, but he's done a good job. I'd say he's had more touches, and sometimes for a running back that helps to get into a flow. Now it's got to work to keep doing it. And he's done, you know, since he's been here, all he's done is improve. Keeps his, you know, he's a really good kid that has worked really hard. He busts his tail in the off season, doesn't say a whole lot, and, you know, certainly very dependable for us in a lot of areas of playing the running back position.
Dawkins, Buffalo Sports 1080. How you doing?
Good, Mook. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's to you. Coach, yesterday, Singletary over 100 yards. What do you got to say about just the way the run game performed between your running backs and the offensive line together?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I was a lot of yards and made a lot of critical plays at critical times. You know, the offensive line. But look, it's team football regardless. It's quarterback decision making on a few of those plays with the design of them, and, you know, whether it was an RPO or a read, whatever it may be. But, you know, in order to run the ball, you got to be physical up front. You see the hole and hit the hole, and you got to run with the ball in your hand, and you need blocks from the perimeter guys and finish. That's the run game. They did a good job with it yesterday.
Right. And how much patience must you have before, you know, you to make that quick burst decision? How important is that, Coach?
For the running back?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, there's a variety of different type of run schemes. We could be here for a long time talking about the footwork and the reads, and, you know, a gap scheme with one puller versus two pullers versus no pullers versus an outside zone and inside zone. There's, and I know you know this, there's, various techniques and fundamentals that a running back has to execute to time up with the blocking pattern of the offensive line and the ball handling of the quarterback. But usually in this league, I'd say the best thing is you got to hit the hole before it closes, because it closes quick. And just kind of leave it at that.
No doubt, Coach. You look good pulling too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Good luck this week.
Thank you. Happy New Year again.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Dave. Happy New Year. Just wondering,
hey, Dan, Happy New Year.
If we talk about adversity and how it, shapes teams, the word that's been passed around a lot, it seems like, has been urgency around the building over maybe the last month. How can that shape the offense? Because it seems like since I don't mean to put my input on it, but since the second half of Tampa Bay, it seems like the urgency has been ramped up another level. Have you felt that? Is that something that affects everything?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Dan. Look, we talk about adversity and being resilient really at the start of when we all come back after that season had just ended. Because I think it's important to educate your team, particularly guys in today's day and age, with all the things that are going outside, to try to do your best to really focus on your job and build trust in the room with one another, knowing that things aren't always going to be perfect. I'd say urgency is always there, because it's really hard to compete in this league if you don't have it. It's a highly competitive league, you know that. But once you get to, once you get to playing after Thanksgiving and you're kind of in the hunt, if you will, yeah, I'd say you have to. I think it's human nature to pick it up another level. I mean, every little thing makes a difference, whether you're playing in September, October, November, December, but, it's human nature, right? You're getting toward the end of the season, and I don't think it's real healthy to watch standings and things like that. But let's be real. I mean, these young guys, I think a lot of them do it. And I don't think you can be naive to that. You got to teach it. You got to coach it. And you got to make sure you bring back the people together, unite them, and make sure we're focusing on the next week. Again, we've talked about this last week. I think it's the ebbs and flows. You don't want to be sitting on top of the mountain one week and in the valley the next, and you're going to have to go through some painful games. Obviously we did last year, we did the year before, but to have resiliency and a great mental toughness about yourself and your team, and just create that urgency each week, goes a long way. And even if you have the urgency and all that, you still got to play well and coach well and do the things you need to do for that particular week. That's a good question.
We talk about the ebbs and flows, but I just might follow up. When you have those low points, I know each season is different, but are you able, or do you ever look back to last year when things were really rolling and go, hey, guys, this is what we can still do, even though they're different seasons? I know. Does it help to do that, to get confidence back, I guess, maybe when you're at one of those ebbs?
Yeah, no, I'm not necessarily, go back to last year. I think as a coach, as you mature and, you're in this business for a while, you're going to have a lot of those. And I think the more you can learn from those, maybe it's not the exact same situation, but there's things that you had to go through as a coach with a team or as a leader with a team that you can draw from and be better at the next time that you do it. Because again, you want to win every game. You put your heart and soul into this each and every week. The players go out there, they practice hard, and you're working together as a coaching staff, trying to put them in the best position. They're working their tails off, and sometimes you fall short or it doesn't go the way you want. And you got to be willing to, pick yourself back up, look yourself in the mirror, look your players in the mirror, or look your players in the face and say, look, here's where we're at. And I think being consistent and not doing this, staying consistent, staying authentic for these guys nowadays is important.
Appreciate it as always, Brian.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. Happy New Year.
Same to you, Jay.
Thanks, Brian. You talked earlier, I think when you were talking about Dion, with the offensive line and sort of the juggling that you guys have been forced to do. The one constant there, though, has been Mitch really throughout that. I would have to think that's made his job a fair bit more difficult. How have you seen him respond to that? And has he even maybe elevated his game on the field and as a leader in response to that?
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. Yes, he's been a really, really good leader for us. I was just talking a minute ago to Dan. He's a very consistent individual. He's routine oriented. He is a great person, which I think that's a testament to the people that we bring in the building. I think we have a lot of those type of guys that love to compete, that love the game. But I'd say, playing that spot, center or quarterback or middle linebacker or whoever it may be, where you're looking at the guys in the face and you're making the calls on a play in, play out basis. I think he has a lot of confidence in what we're doing. I certainly know that we have a lot of confidence in him. There's things that come up each game and between each series that he has to make a split-second decision and go with, trust his rules and handle it. And I think he's done a really good job of communicating to the other linemen, with the quarterback, keeping us on the same page. But he's really done a good job for us. Not that he did it last year or anything like that, but I think he's taken another step in playing in that leadership role on the offensive line.
Yeah. And then last thing for me with Stefan, you know, we're accustomed to the big numbers and the highlights and all of that, but you know, he was a guy that he took some big shots yesterday, and he just kind of keeps popping back up. Is his toughness, you know, what's that say about his toughness? Is that maybe one of his traits that I wouldn't say is overlooked, but maybe doesn't get brought up a lot, but is there in regards to his game?
Yeah, I think he's both physically tough and mentally tough. And he's been he's voted captain for a reason. He's been a really good leader for us. You know, glad we have him, but there's a lot of attributes that I could sit here and talk about him. I love the guy. I love what he's done for our football team, and we're going to need him here down the stretch.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian. Have a good week.
You too.
There we go. Good afternoon, Coach George Radney, Challenger Community News. How you doing today?
Good, George. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, Happy New Year to you too, you and your family as well. Question. I was wondering with Matt Breida, Isaiah McKenzie, and Devin Singletary. I noticed I hadn't seen all three of those. Is something maybe down the road with all three of those guys being on the field at the same time, as explosive as all three of them are, to help with the running game and maybe even help with giving the other runs to these other touches to these explosive guys that might be able to break one?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always a possibility of everything. You know, last few weeks, we could go with two running backs. You know, last week was Zach and Devin. The week before that was Zach and Devin, and Breida was sprinkled in there. And little man, look, we look at every personnel group each and every week that, you know, we think we can use and utilize, and we try to use all the guys that are up and available for each game.
All right. Thank you very much. Good luck this coming week.
Thanks, George.
Dad, we're having trouble hearing you.
Do you got me now, Brian?
I got you now.
Thanks, man. Sorry about that. Happy New Year. I appreciate you waiting for me.
Oh, hey, Thad. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. What went into the decision to keep Ryan Bates in the starting lineup this week?
He played well the week before. You know, he's a guy that has done everything we've asked him to do since he's been here. He got an opportunity last week, did a good job with it, and played another good game this week for us. So he's a guy that really knows all our spots, but you know, he earned it.
I think fans look at a situation like that where you've got a guy who's been successful, who's been on your team all year, and they wonder, you know, why hasn't this guy been tried earlier? And, you know, it's not a fair take because this is something that happens in the league all the time. What goes into that situation where you have a guy on your team that maybe doesn't get the opportunity, and then suddenly, whether it's week 14, 17, whatever, you know, all of a sudden you discover, wow, this can work here.
Yeah. I think that happens at a lot of positions, right? The people that you keep on your team, Thad, and I've spoken this at length, maybe last week or the week before, they all can help you. And you can only play a certain amount. So you go with the ones for that particular game or whatever it may be that you think gives you the best chance. Doesn't mean anything that the guy's backing them up or anything like that. You're fully confident in those guys. And sometimes when a guy gets his opportunity that's in that role, they take it and they run with it. And we expect that out of all our guys. And certainly that, you know, Ryan's done a good job. He's really done a good job since he came over from Philadelphia, you know, whatever it was a few years ago. And he's made the most of it.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
You got it, Thad.
That's all we have for today. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Leslie, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Right.
Thanks.
Great. We'll get started with questions.
Hey, Leslie, Happy New Year. Josh Reed here.
Hey, Josh, Happy New Year to you.
Harrison Phillips' workload has continued to go up, and he's continued to take advantage of it. When you went back and watched the film, what did you see from him from Sunday's game against the Falcons?
Josh, he played really, really well for us. Ended up playing so well that he's our game ball recipient on defense. He did a great job of harassing the quarterback. That fumble recovery was big. It led to points for us. He had a number of tackles as well. Created a TFL for us, a tackle for loss. So he's playing really well, shedding blocks, getting off of blocks, and then getting that pocket push up the middle that we've needed when we get good edge pressure like the sack that we had with Greg. We've been lacking that at times, that inside pocket push, but he's giving that to us. So he's playing good against the run. He's helping us in the pass rush. Just really doing a lot of good things for us.
The tandem up the middle there with he and Ed Oliver, we hear so often about chemistry on the offensive line, but the interior of the defensive line, how much do they have to kind of be hand in hand with each other?
Yeah, it's a good question because you really want your D-line to be in sync. There are a lot of times, Josh, where we're running games where they need to be on the same page. And it's really the same way in the run game as well. I mean, they really got to do a great job of all being where they need to be gap responsibility-wise. So that continuity and that really working off of each other, it's important on the defensive line, that chemistry and their understanding of where one guy will be on this play versus another play, or this call versus a different call.
Thanks a lot, Leslie. Have a good week.
Thanks.
Hey, Leslie, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. I wanted to ask you about Levi Wallace and the season that he's had really to date, and then maybe in particular, since you lost Tre'Davious, what you've seen from Levi and how he's responded to that challenge.
Yeah, Jay, he's really been consistent throughout the season. He's been very steady for us. Hasn't had a lot of ups and downs. He's been a guy we've been able to count on week in and week out and really not have to worry about. In the past, knowing that we had Tre'Davious and people going to stay away from him for the most part, you really were concerned, how is Levi going to hold up against this guy or that guy? But that hasn't been the case in 2021. He's been really steady for us. He's gotten the job done. And then in Tre'Davious' absence, I think he's really helped Dane to go out there with confidence, giving him some tips in practice, talking to him in our individual drills. I think he's helped Dane's game. And we needed that. We needed him to step up his leadership, not just in this play, but also verbally as well with a young corner opposite him. And he's been really good for us in that way.
Yeah. And then the other guy I wanted to ask you about was Mario Addison. He had another sack yesterday. I think it was 5th, leads you guys. And I know, his veteran leadership is a big part of, what he brings to the table too. But, where what do you think about where Mario is, particularly, he's I think 33, 34 years old. You've tried to maybe manage his snap counts to keep him fresh. How do you think he's playing for you recently, and then season kind of overall, if you could?
Yeah, I think the last month or so, and it's due to Eric Washington, our D-line coach, doing a really good job of managing his reps early in the season, and it's benefiting us now in late December into early January with the play that we're getting from him. We didn't wear him out early in September and October, and we tried to get him to this point, both he and Jerry Hughes, where they could really help us down the stretch. And Mario's been consistent for us throughout the season, his veteran leadership in practice, his veteran leadership in our meeting rooms, and of course in games as well. And we've got that consistent play from him. But I think a lot of it has to do with, we understand where he is at this stage of his career, and we just tried to make sure we're getting the most out of him at this time of the year. And it's paying off for us.
Thanks, Leslie. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Coach Frazier. George Radney, Challenger Community News. How you doing this afternoon?
Doing well, George. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm just wondering now, with the coaching carousel starting to take place and they moved the dates up, I'm wondering, has your agent or your representative have been contacted at the present time regarding your a possible interview coming up for you?
No, have not heard from any teams or anything like that, which is fine with me. You know, we got a lot of work to get done, a lot on our plate right now. So it's all good, all good.
All right. Well, I'm sure that phone will be ringing pretty soon because I don't know what's going on. You definitely should be a candidate for sure. And my second question is, Levi Wallace, do you think his playing at Alabama, being a walk-on and learning and at those big colleges, those guys a lot of them seem to always say that the practice sometimes is harder than the game. The way they practice, the Clemsons, the Alabama. Matter of fact, Arthur Smith, the coach of the Atlanta Falcons, mentioned that yesterday about AJ Terrell, that these guys come in from these big schools, they really know how to practice. And a lot of times their practicing is harder than those college games that they had to play. Do you think that's is something to that in Levi Wallace's case?
Yeah, I think George, a lot of it is the makeup of the individual. We've coached some guys who come from small schools that come in and really are hungry and really equipped to play at our level. But in Levi's case, and I look at it from an individual standpoint, you would think that if you went to a Big Ten school or an SEC school, you're playing against the cream of the crop, and that's enough to prepare you to play in our league and play at a high level. But that's not always the case. I think it comes back to the individual and that individual's makeup, because the competition at our level, as good as those top college programs are, it's a step above, and and it's every player you line up against is capable of having success in our league. So it's a little bit different in college, you know, where you may play 3 or 4 elite guys in a year. You're playing elite guys every week, sometimes multiple elite guys. So it has a lot to do with the individual and his makeup.
All right. Thank you very much, and good luck this coming week.
Thank you.
Hi, Leslie. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I want to ask about Terrain Edmonds. You know, he's obviously locked in next year, you know, with this option, but there's a little bit of uncertainty beyond that. And I know that he's talked about this before, saying it doesn't really bother him. But in your experience as a coach and even going back as a player, can that be something that gets in a player's head? You know, just uncertainty over his long-term viability. And do you worry about that with him?
I think for some guys, it could potentially be an issue where it's in the back of their minds because of the potential injury situation. But Tremaine is such a mature guy, such a level-headed guy, and he comes from a background where he has a parent who played professional sports. So I think he looks at it through a different lens than some who may not have come from a similar background. So his maturity and his ability to be able to see the bigger picture and not allow this one season to interfere with what his long-term goals are and what our team goals are, I think is a credit to his background and the fact that he has parents who have played at a high level. So that's kind of equipped him to have to take it with a right approach. But I could see some guys, it could probably have an effect.
He's, I guess, you know, by today's standards of linebackers, at least, you know, inside linebackers, non-pass rushers, he's a giant. I mean, there's hardly any 250-pounders anymore. What kind of dimension does he add? A unique dimension does he add with that?
Well, he makes it really hard for quarterbacks as they are trying to make throws over the middle of our defense. It's difficult as those guys are trying to judge his range, and in particular when he gets his hands up. You know, he's had a number of batted balls over the course of his short career in the NFL, and a lot of it has to do with quarterbacks just not sure of, you know, what he can do when he raises his hands up. He ends up being about 6'7", you know, when he gets his hands up. So it causes problems for quarterbacks, his length, but also for running backs because of the way he can close on running backs when he's tracking them down in the alley. You think you have him gauged because he's a long strider, and all of a sudden he's on you. So his length is a plus in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, we're talking a little bit to Greg after the game about the rookie wall and the challenges of your rookie season. And then again with Sean today. I'm curious, what have you learned about navigating that with players over the course of your career? And has anything changed as you've learned more about how you do navigate it yourself as a coach and anything that you might do with your staff or with the player itself that, to kind of guard against it, I guess.
Yeah. It's a really good question. It's funny you asked that. We met with myself, Eric Washington, Jock Cesaire, our assistant D-line coach, met with Greg, Carlos Basham, and AJ Epinesa just to talk about this subject just a week ago. And it's a real occurrence, that rookie wall. I've had other players who've experienced it, went through it myself. This is a long season compared to what those guys have experienced in college. And then if you take Greg's situation, which is a unique one because he didn't play any football in 2020, and all of a sudden you're in such a lengthy season, it can get to a point where you're looking and saying, man, when is this thing going to end, and it can affect your play. So we wanted to really get out in front and try to let our players know. We had these discussions through October and November, and we wanted to sit down and revisit some things just a week ago to let those guys know we understand where they are. We know how challenging the NFL season can be, but just to make sure from a nutritional standpoint, from a rest standpoint, just taking care of your body, that they're doing the right things to help themselves, and also mentally to be able to disengage sometimes. When we are out of the building, just try to relax and you take your mind off of football. But it's a lot longer season than what they've experienced before, and we just wanted to try to prep them and prepare them for what they're going to go through and help them to get through this period, because we need them. We need them to play at a high level and not to regress in late December or early January.
There were a few games early on where the production was really high for him. And obviously, it's hard to expect that week in and week out for a player. And did you notice for his case specifically that helped? And what did you make after putting the film on of his game on Sunday against Atlanta?
It looked more, to your point, looked a little more like what we saw early in the season. And that's what we need this time of the year. I mean, he's capable of winning on tackles. He's capable of winning in the run game as well as the pass game. And we just want to see him consistently play at that level. And yesterday was really good. I mean, that looked like a breakthrough game for Greg, and we hope to see that, going forward.
Did he come over after the game and say, hey, thanks for the talk, coach?
No. We gave each other a big hug, though, for hugs of encouragement, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Happy New Year, Leslie.
Thank you.
Hey, Leslie. I know you were asked about Levi and how he's been playing and all that, but now that you've got a 5-game sample size since Tre'Davious went out, I'm curious how you feel like this whole secondary has kind of responded, and what has been your impressions? Have anything surprised you or stood out in that time?
Well, we've been really pleased, Elena, with our secondary and the way they come together. It was, obviously a tough loss, losing Tre'Davious. You really couldn't project what kind of impact that would have on us. But the way Micah, along with Jordan, have kind of held things together, and the way Levi has displayed tremendous leadership for us, I think that's helped Dane to really come along, and he has not been a liability at all. He's made some good plays for us. He did it yesterday, made a nice play on that first third down, I think, of the game. So it's really good to see how our secondary has stayed together and really helped us to be successful on defense in large part because of some of their play and the fact that we have really good leadership in the back end.
And then on a completely separate note, I had been thinking back, I think it was my first week covering the team, but you had mentioned at the beginning of the season that Ed Oliver was someone you thought of as a breakout guy. He could have a big season. I know there's a game left in the regular season, obviously, but I mean, the season he's put together, your prediction coming true. I mean, how impressed, how proud have you been of just what he's done this year?
You have a good memory. I remember you asking that question back in August. Extremely proud of what Ed has done. He put a lot of work into his craft in the off season. Eric Washington and Jock have done a tremendous job of just helping him take his game to the next level. And that's what we've needed from Ed. We needed that this season. We need that breakout season. And, you hope that for players, but you don't always get it. But he's worked so hard to put himself in a position to succeed. And now to see some of that success, and obviously we're the beneficiaries as a defense. He has been so disruptive for offensive linemen trying to block him. And just pleased for him and proud for our defense because he's helped us tremendously.
How would you describe Ed like in meetings? Like what kind of guy is he kind of like, we see him and he's got a personality, but I'm just kind of curious, like, what do you see from Ed as a coach?
Oh, he's a big personality. Believe me. He's a guy, fun-loving guy, always just a ball of energy. It's like he plays on the field, 100 miles per hour, all over the place. Well, there are times Eric Washington has to tell him, can you just be quiet, just sit down in your seat and just pay attention, because he's an energetic guy. And, when he's in the room, everybody knows he's there, which is good. I mean, his personality is one of those that's really kind of brings everybody together. He likes to have fun, likes to tease his teammates, and he can take it a little bit too, but he can definitely give it out. But he's really good, just good to be around.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, Happy New Year. I know you talked about Harrison Phillips already, but I was curious, Greg Rousseau after the game yesterday was saying about how Harrison's also been so big as far as helping younger guys along, bringing some leadership. And I know he's kind of young himself too, Harrison, but on top of his play on the field, where do you see that showing up kind of behind the scenes with this team?
Yeah, Captain, that's a really good question as well. I'm sure you're aware that we didn't have Eric Washington in the New England game, our D-line coach. After the game, Jock Cesare came to me, our assistant D-line coach who had to kind of run the show. And he said, man, I really appreciate Harry. We call him Harrison. He said, I really appreciate Harry. He did a great job of communicating my message to the players and then taking that to the field as well. And that's the part from a coaching standpoint that the fans wouldn't really know about. But you need players like Harrison who can really take your message to his teammates and make sure that gets communicated correctly. And it comes back and it shows up on the football field as well. So that type of leadership is big, to have a guy who kind of understands the big picture of what we're trying to get accomplished, but he's also a good player at the same time. And that really gives him some credibility with his teammates. They trust him because of that. And then the coaches, he's earned the coaches' trust as well. So just that little tidbit, just having a guy that the coaches trust, that his teammates trust, who's also a good player, makes us a good defensive line, a good defense.
Was that New England game, I don't want to say a turning point, but was that kind of the most you had seen it at once, or where have you seen that development of leadership?
I think it's always been there, Catherine, but he's been injured, so he was kind of in and out of the lineup early on. And the more he's played, the more credibility he's gained with his teammates because he's been productive. He's been a really good player for us. So now when you are barking out orders sometimes, I'm more apt to listen because I see your play, and your play kind of solidifies, man, I really need to listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. And that's what he's been for us. I mean, he's one of those guys who has tremendous knowledge, and he's a good football player as well. And he's a very good leader. And so now you combine that with his willingness to share, the fact that, he's not a rookie. He can help a guy like a Greg Rousseau or a Carlos Bastion because of what he's been through. I mean, that's what you need, a veteran guy who's willing to share, and those guys will listen when you make plays.
Gotcha. And then to jump back for a second to what you were saying about the rookie wall and meeting with guys, I'm curious, it sounds like there was a lot of tangible advice of, eat right, get your sleep, do these things. But you also mentioned the idea of just saying, we've been through this, I've been through this, we see what you're going through. How much do you think that can reassure a player, a rookie, just to hear this has happened to other guys, this is not just you?
Yeah, I think that's very important because when you're going through it and you're looking at the tape, because we're showing them tape of how you played in September versus how you are, say, in late November or early December, and you're looking, you're wondering, man, why am I not getting off the ball like I was in September? Why am I not, getting to the ball as fast as I was in October? And you just want them to know that, hey, we know what you're going through, and you're going to get through it, and we're going to support you as you're working through it. But there is some mental fatigue that comes along with this when you're in such a long season compared to where you were in college. And they just need to be reassured that you're going to be all right. Just keep taking care of your body, doing the right things, and we'll get through this period. and we believe in you, and we're going to support you through it. And I think that helps a player a great deal.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
That'll do it for today. Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Stuff.